There's something I really want you to know. A lot of people don't die because of diabetes. They die from the things diabetes quietly destroys without them even realizing it. I'm David Mitchell. I'm 60 years old, and for over 30 years, I've worked with people over 50 here in the US, people just like you, and honestly, people like me in a few years. And what always weighs on me is this diabetes doesn't always show up knocking at the door. It slips in quietly and slowly takes everything away. I've seen people who were still driving, still reading the newspaper, still taking their grandkids to school, and just a few years later, they're living in a blur of dim light because their retinas were damaged and they lost their vision. I've treated people who just felt a little tired, and by the time they found out, their kidneys were failing and they were on dialysis for life. Some have told me, "Doctor, I can't feel the bottoms of my feet anymore. It's like they're not even mine." And then there are the things nobody ever wants to talk about: foot ulcers, infections, amputations. Someone can be laughing and talking 1 month, and a few months later, they're gone because of a stroke or heart attack. There are even people who don't understand why they're slowly forgetting the names of their grandkids, but I know. Chronically high blood sugar damages the brain long before anyone notices. But the thing I regret the most isn't the complications themselves, it's the reason behind them. Most of them come from misunderstanding. Not because people want to do the wrong thing, but because they think they're doing the right thing. Food choices are a matter of survival for someone with diabetes. Their body doesn't process sugar like everyone else's. One wrong glass of milk, one snack without counting carbs, one sugar-free product loaded with starch, that's enough to make blood sugar spike. It doesn't hurt right away, but every spike is one step closer to complications. So many patients have said to me, "Come on, doctor, milk is good. Kids drink it, older folks drink it. What's the big deal?" And all I can say is not all milk is the same. Some kinds help keep your blood sugar steady, but others make it rise faster than white rice. And that's exactly why I made this video. Not to scare anyone, but to help you understand what you're putting into your body. Because when you understand, you control the disease. When you don't, the disease controls you. Today, I'm going to break it down clearly. 3 types of milk you should avoid or only use in very small amounts, and 3 types of milk that can actually be safe companions if you want to keep your blood sugar stable. But before we get into the main part, if this is your first time watching my video, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I don't make this content for people in their 20s or 30s. I make it for those who want to stay healthy, stay sharp, and stay around to enjoy life with their kids and grandkids. If today's topic is helpful, type the number 1 in the comments. If you're not satisfied, type 0, so I know what I should adjust in the next video. All right, now let's get it started with the 3 types of milk you should avoid or only use very sparingly. You know, there are things we think are harmless, at least until our body speaks up. So many people in their 50s or 60s keep the habit of drinking milk every morning because they believe it's safe, it's healthy, it gives them energy. But when you're diabetic or even pre-diabetic, not every glass of milk is the same. I used to think I'd seen every mistake out there. Turns out the smallest habits can cause the biggest problems. And one of the things I keep running into over and over again is rice milk. Maybe you're thinking, milk made from rice must be gentler than cow's milk, right? Or maybe you grabbed a carton because you saw the words plant-based or lactose-free on the label. But I want you to picture this: a glass of rice milk has almost twice the amount of carbs compared to cow's milk, with barely any protein or fat to slow down sugar absorption. What does that mean? It means the sugar from rice milk goes straight into your bloodstream fast and hard, like drinking a glass of water with sugar stirred in. One of my patients, Linda, 67, once told me she switched from cow's milk to rice milk because she thought plants must be better. She drank it every morning, felt lighter in her stomach, but her blood sugar kept climbing, even though nothing else in her diet changed. When I asked more questions, she brought the carton to my office. We read the label together, and she just gave me this sad little smile. I had no idea it was basically all sugar. I didn't blame her, and I don't blame anyone in that situation. The problem isn't that people are trying to do the wrong thing. It's that nobody tells them what to avoid. Rice milk sounds harmless, but metabolically, it delivers a real hit to your blood sugar. Some brands even add sugar or corn syrup, and nobody notices. And because there's almost no fat or protein in it, your body absorbs it just like liquid starch. On top of that, it doesn't keep you full, so an hour later, people feel hungry again, they eat more, and the cycle repeats. I once asked a man in his early 70s, "Have you ever felt lightheaded or strangely tired after drinking milk?" He looked at me and said, "Sure, but I just thought it was age." It's not always age. Sometimes it's your blood sugar spiking and crashing triggered by something you thought was healthy. Now, I'm not saying rice milk should never be used, but if someone's only issue is lactose intolerance, there are far better, more stable options. Rice milk should be the last resort, and even then, not a daily habit. I just want you to remember this. Not everything plant-based is good for your blood sugar. And just because something has no added sugar doesn't mean it's safe. When a product is high in starch and missing the balancing nutrients, it can raise blood sugar faster than a bowl of white rice. If you're trying to manage your glucose or simply don't want diabetes knocking on your door in a few years, be cautious with things that look pure but trick you with a gentle appearance. A carton of milk isn't just a drink. It can be a plus or a minus for your health, depending on the choice you make. And that's just the first one. In a moment, I'll tell you about another milk that many folks think is healthy, but it spikes blood sugar just as fast as a pastry. But before we go there, I want you to pause for a few seconds and ask yourself, have I ever been drinking milk out of habit, not because I truly know it's right for my body? If the answer is yes, then you're already on the right path, because awareness is always the first step in taking back control of your health. Back when I was younger in this profession, I used to believe that anything made from oats had to be good. People always said oatmeal lowers cholesterol, keeps you full, longer supports heart health. And that's true. If you're eating whole oats with the fiber intact, not something that's been processed layer after layer. But after working with hundreds of patients, I realized something most people overlook. Oat milk is not oats. I remember a man named Robert, 62, from Arizona who came to see me feeling proud. He said, "Doc, I've quit cow's milk. Now I drink oat milk, the unsweetened kind. Way healthier." He said it like he had just dodged a major mistake. But what shocked him was that after just a few months, his A1C actually went up. And the question he asked me that day still echoes in my mind. Why would something that sounds good make me worse? You see, oat milk is the perfect example of a product that sounds healthy but isn't exactly kind to your blood sugar. During production, the starch in oats gets broken down into simpler sugars. So even if the label doesn't list added sugar, those sugars are already in there hiding under the word carbohydrate. I once told a patient, if you drink a glass of oat milk and think your body will handle it like a bowl of whole oatmeal, you're giving your metabolism too much credit, especially when you're over 50 or already dealing with insulin resistance. That sugar rushes into your bloodstream so fast your body can't brace itself. Here's another thing that tricks people. Oat milk goes down, smooth feels light, no bloating, no lactose discomfort. And yes, for folks who can't handle soy or almond, it feels like a safe choice. But how you feel doesn't always match the truth. In many cases, the carbs in oat milk are nearly double that of cow's milk, while the low protein and fat makes sugar absorption even faster. I once asked Janet, 58, pre-diabetic, about an hour after drinking oat milk, do you ever feel a little lightheaded or sleepy? She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I thought it was from not sleeping well. No, that was her body reacting to a blood sugar spike and the crash that followed. So is oat milk completely bad? I'm not saying that, but if you're trying to manage your blood sugar or avoid sliding closer to diabetes, this is not something you should drink every day. It's fine occasionally when you really need it. Just don't let it become part of your daily breakfast simply because it's marketed well. I want you to ask yourself one thing. Am I choosing what's right for my body or what makes me feel better because the packaging looks clean and the ads sound nice? Because those two things are not the same. And if you think oat milk is the safest of all the plant-based milks, then you'll want to hear what's next. The next one fools even more people, not because it's high in carbs, but because it has almost nothing. Except one thing your heart absolutely does not want: coconut milk in drink form. 3. Coconut milk. Drink form. When I bring up this third kind of milk, people are often surprised because they assume it's safer than the others. And to be fair, compared to rice milk or oat milk, coconut milk, especially the unsweetened drink version, does seem more harmless. It's almost carb-free, it doesn't spike blood sugar, and when you mix it into coffee or a smoothie, it has that creamy, comforting texture. But from an endocrinologist's point of view, you never judge something by just one good feature you have to see the whole picture. I remember a woman named Denise, 64, from Florida, who came to me and said, "Doctor, don't worry, I've quit cow's milk and almond milk. Now I only use unsweetened coconut milk, zero carbs." The way she said it made me chuckle a little. Not because she was completely wrong, but because I've probably heard that sentence 200 times in my life. I asked her one simple question. Do you use it as a flavoring or do you drink it as a milk replacement? She told me she drinks it every morning as a small meal because she's afraid other milks have sugar. And that right there is the problem. Coconut milk has almost no protein. That means your body gets nothing to support muscle, nothing to keep your metabolism steady, nothing to help you feel full. It's basically like drinking a cup of fatty water, not a nutritional beverage. I want you to picture this. You start your morning with a glass of unsweetened coconut milk. Your blood sugar doesn't rise, true, but an hour later you're hungry. You reach for something, maybe bread, maybe sweet fruit, maybe a snack you think is harmless. And that's when your body reacts even harder to the next food because there was no protein or fiber to balance things out. There's also something most people overlook. The fat in coconut milk is almost entirely saturated fat. It's not the enemy, but if you use it every day, especially past age 50, it's not exactly a friend to your heart either. I once told a 70-year-old man margarine and animal fat can both narrow your blood vessels over time. The only difference is how they look and how they're marketed. So should you completely get rid of coconut milk? No. But it's not a real milk you can rely on daily. It works well as a flavor boost in coffee and a green smoothie, or paired with something that has protein. But by itself, it's not enough. It's like trying to balance a chair on one leg and expecting it not to fall. If you've used coconut milk and felt fine, that's not wrong. But if you think it can fully replace other milks, especially when you're managing blood sugar and protecting your heart, I want you to pause and reconsider. At our age, good health isn't just about avoiding the bad, it's about choosing what's truly right. When you hit your 50s, you start to realize something health isn't a hobby you pick up when you feel like it and drop when life gets busy. It's more like a savings account. You either invest a little every day or one day you'll have to pay for it with your freedom. And when it comes to diabetes, most people think medication is what makes the difference. But after more than 30 years as a doctor, I've seen the opposite. A few small changes in what you eat can do things medicine sometimes can't. After I talk to my patients about the types of milk they should avoid, they often look at me a bit confused. Bobo, what am I supposed to drink? And I always tell them, don't worry, there are good options. You just have to know how to spot them. Today, I want to share the first one in the safe and helpful group, unsweetened almond milk. And I'm not going to talk about it like some advertisement. I'm going to tell you the way I've seen it work in real people's lives. I remember Carol, 59 years old. She loved cow's milk, but had to stop because her cholesterol was climbing. Her blood sugars was unstable and lactose was messing with her digestion. She tried rice milk, then oat milk, but nothing improved. When I suggested unsweetened almond milk, she laughed and said I thought almonds were just snack food for people trying to stay skinny. 2 months later, she came back with results that nearly made her cry. Her blood sugar had stabilized, her waistline shrank a bit. The bloating after breakfast disappeared. And the most surprising part, she said she didn't crave sweets the way she used to. She told me I never thought one small swap could make this big a difference. Unsweetened almond milk is like a gentle companion for anyone with diabetes or prediabetes. Why? Because it only has about 1 to 2 grams of carbs per cup, way lower than cow's milk, oat milk, or rice milk. When a food doesn't push your blood sugar up, you immediately get back some control you thought you'd already lost. Now, some people ask, is it even nutritious or is it just flavored water? And I'll be honest, if you're looking for high protein, almond milk by itself isn't a full meal. But if you're looking for something that supports blood sugar, is easy on the heart, has no cholesterol, and doesn't make your insulin bounce around, then it's one of the best options out there. Most unsweetened almond milks on the market these days are fortified with vitamin D, calcium, vitamin E, and sometimes a bit of omega-3. Those don't just help your bones and skin, they also help lower inflammation, which almost everyone with diabetes is silently dealing with. But I always say this clearly to my patients. Don't treat it like a full meal. Almond milk is very low in protein. If you drink it by itself, it's like walking when your body needs someone to help support it. The best way is to pair it with chia seeds, some plant-based protein, a few slices of avocado, or drink it alongside a meal with fiber and healthy fat. Then it stops being just a drink, it becomes part of your long-term blood sugar support system. I once asked a man in his 60s, have you ever had to worry about what your blood sugar will do right after drinking milk? He laughed and said every single day. When he switched to almond milk, he told me something that really warmed me up inside. For the first time in years, I drank something and didn't feel the need to test my sugar right after. I want you to understand this. At our age, peace of mind is a kind of medicine. Not everything has to be packed with nutrition. Sometimes the best gift is simply something that doesn't hurt you. And unsweetened almond milk is exactly that kind of gift if you use it the right way. In the next part, I'll talk about another milk with more protein, good for people who want stable blood sugar and want to protect their muscles, especially if they're trying not to lose weight or need to manage blood pressure. But before we get there, ask yourself this. Am I choosing what I like, or am I choosing what helps me live longer and live better? I've told many of my patients this. Managing blood sugar isn't about living in fear of certain foods. It's about the skill of choosing what you let into your body every day. And once people start replacing regular milk with something more blood sugar friendly, they're often surprised by how positively their body responds. After they get used to unsweetened almond milk, light, easy to drink, low in carbs, there's almost always a follow-up question, doctor. Is there something that feels more like real milk? I still want something a bit more filling, and that's when I bring up soy milk. You see, not everyone wants something too light. Some people want to feel full or they want a clear source of protein in their day. Soy milk, as long as you choose the unsweetened kind, is one of the kindest options for people with prediabetes or diabetes. I remember a patient named Richard, 63, who had loved cow's milk since he was a kid. When his blood sugar started climbing, his previous doctor told him to stop drinking it. He quit, but for months he felt like something was missing from his mornings. When I suggested unsweetened soy milk, he frowned and said, I don't want to drink something that tastes like powdered water, doc. 3 weeks later, he came back. He told me he'd been mixing soy milk with a little cinnamon and adding a few walnuts to his breakfast. And the surprising part wasn't just a drop in his blood sugar, it was that he stayed full longer and no longer craved pastries in the afternoon. That's a very good sign because when sugar cravings stop running your day, you've already won half the battle. Here's where soy milk stands out compared to almond milk. It actually has a good amount of plant-based protein, almost equal to skim cow's milk, but without the cholesterol. That protein slows down how fast carbs are absorbed, so instead of your blood sugar spiking, it rises gently and steadily. Most plant milks can't do that. Plus, soy contains flavonoids and plant-based omega-3s, things a lot of people think only come from fish. These help reduce inflammation and support heart health. For people with diabetes, reducing hidden inflammation is a bigger deal than most realize. I've also met many postmenopausal women who choose soy milk for another reason: bone health. Most unsweetened soy milks on the market are fortified with vitamin D and calcium. But the reason I often recommend it to people over 50 isn't just for bones, it's because it can support blood pressure and cholesterol. Plenty of studies show that swapping cow's milk for soy milk can lower LDL, the bad cholesterol both you and I want gone. Another time I asked a 58-year-old patient, "Do you feel like your waistline keeps quietly expanding, even though you're not eating much?" She sighed and smiled sadly. I thought that was just fate, but no. It wasn't fate, it was a metabolic problem. When she replaced condensed milk and whole milk with unsweetened soy milk and simplified her breakfast, her waist went down nearly 3 centimeters in 2 months without dieting. She told me, "I never thought my morning milk had anything to do with how my jeans fit." But there's one thing I always stress: only the unsweetened kind truly supports blood sugar. Some brands add sugar or syrup to make it taste better, and that's exactly the trap people drink. It then wonder why their glucose still spikes. I always tell my patients, don't trust the label on the front, read the nutrition facts. If it says 6 to 8 grams of sugar per serving, it's not a safe option anymore. Ask yourself this: are you drinking milk just to satisfy a habit or to help your body recover? If it's the second one, unsweetened soy milk absolutely deserves a place in your kitchen. And if you're unsure whether it'll suit you, just remember your body will give you the answer pretty quickly. But before we move on to the next type of milk, I want you to understand something. We're not giving up cow's milk. We're learning to love our bodies in a new way, smarter, more intentional, and kinder to ourselves. 3. Skim milk, 0% or 1%. A lot of people hear cow's milk and immediately think high blood sugar, weight gain, bloating, and all kinds of the problems. I get it. For years, my patients would say, "Doctor, I just cut milk out completely to be safe." But the truth isn't that black and white. The issue isn't cow's milk itself, it's which type you choose and how you use it. Picture this: in the morning, you open the fridge and pour yourself a cool glass of milk, but this time it's not the full-fat, creamy kind you drank when you were younger. This is skim milk, 0% or 1% fat, a lighter, smarter, more blood sugar-friendly version. And here's a surprise: if you choose the right one, people with diabetes can still enjoy the benefits of cow's milk without living in fear. I had a patient named Sandra, 67, who'd had type 2 diabetes for over 12 years. She quit milk altogether for almost a decade because she believed milk is sugar. One day we were talking about bone loss and I asked her, "Have you noticed your knees getting weaker faster than before?" She nodded. I suggested she try unsweetened skim milk, and she looked at me like I'd told her to eat donuts for breakfast. But just 2 months later, she said, "I can't believe I'm drinking milk again, and my blood sugar is still stable, and my joints don't ache as much." Skim milk isn't the enemy. It's packed with nutrients that many other foods can't fully replace: calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin B12, zinc. All things the body needs more of after 50. We're no longer young enough to rely on our body's natural reserves. If you're eating less, digesting slower, and your bones are getting weaker, a glass of skim milk can be a meaningful form of support. Here's something people often overlook. Cow's milk doesn't contain added sugar unless it's flavored or sweetened. The natural sugar in milk is lactose, and your body can handle it if you're not lactose intolerant. One glass of skim milk has about 11 grams of carbs, not super low, but not something that will spike your blood sugar if you pair it correctly and know your medication. One of the reasons I still recommend skim milk is whey protein. It helps your body release insulin more effectively after meals. People without diabetes don't notice this, but for someone managing blood sugar, that's a big advantage. Some small studies even show that drinking skim milk before a meal can reduce post-meal glucose spikes. And if you choose milk from grass-fed cows, you get a little bonus. Many people don't realize omega-3s. Not as much as salmon, of course, but enough to reduce silent inflammation and support heart health. For older adults with diabetes, that's no small deal. Of course, nothing is perfect. If you're still drinking whole milk full of saturated fat, there's a real risk of weight gain, fatty liver, and higher cholesterol. That's why I always emphasize choose 0% or 1% fat. If you're trying to manage weight, blood pressure, or lipids, that one decision alone can make a difference. I once asked a 70-year-old patient, "Do you still feel uncomfortable after drinking milk?" He said, "I stopped a long time ago because I got bloated and had to run to the bathroom." When I asked more questions, it turned out he'd been drinking sweetened full-fat milk from the grocery store. He had never tried unsweetened skim milk. After switching, those symptoms went away. Only people who are truly lactose intolerant need to avoid it entirely. Most others just need the right type. So if you've always assumed that diabetes means saying goodbye to cow's milk forever, maybe not. The goal isn't to cut it out completely, but to keep the parts that help you and leave out the parts that hurt you. Skim milk unsweetened in the right amount can absolutely be part of your healing and maintenance. And before I move on to the next type of milk, I want you to ask yourself, are you avoiding milk out of fear or because no one ever taught you how to choose it correctly? If it's the second one, today might just be the day that changes. If you've stayed with me this far, you probably feel the same way I do. Sometimes. Health doesn't change because of big decisions. It starts with the small things we drink every morning. And out of the dozens of milk options out there, only 3 truly stand on the side of people with diabetes. Unsweetened almond milk, light as a breath, almost no carbs, no blood sugar, drama, and kind to your heart. I call it the milk that makes no waves. Unsweetened soy milk, steady and balanced. Enough protein to keep blood sugar from spiking after meals and supportive of weight, blood pressure, and heart health. The 3 things no one over 50 can ignore. Skim cow's milk, 0 to 1%. When you choose it wisely, it becomes the bridge between nutrition and control. It's not the enemy, it just needs to be used intelligently. The others, oat, rice, coconut, are not forbidden, but they're not your everyday partners. Once you truly understand what your body needs, you'll stop choosing milk based on habit and start choosing it with the clarity of someone who's living for their own future. How to choose milk at the store, avoiding hidden sugar traps on the label. After I explain which 3 types of milk are good and which 3 should be limited, a lot of people sigh in relief and say, "So from now on, I just need to remember the names, right, doctor?" I smile and shake my head, because the real mistakes don't come from the name printed on the front of the carton. They come from what's hiding behind the label. You can pick the right type of milk and still drink the wrong version every single day just because you didn't look at a tiny number on the back. Picture this, you're in the grocery store holding a carton that says things like organic, low-fat, natural, or no sugar added. You feel good about your choice. But if you flip it over and read the line that says total sugars or carbohydrates, the story can be completely different. I once had a patient named Helen, 67 years old. She was absolutely convinced she'd been drinking sugar-free milk for months, yet her blood sugar kept climbing. When I checked the label, that milk had 9 grams of sugar per serving, and she was pouring herself 2 servings at a time. She looked at me and said, "I thought no added sugar meant no sugar at all." That's why I always tell people reading nutrition labels isn't just for fussy folks, it's a daily safety shield for anyone living with diabetes. When you pick up a carton of milk, there are a few key things I want you to look at, not on the front, but on the nutrition label in the back. Start with total carbohydrates. For someone with diabetes, carbs are like a switch that flips your blood sugar up. The lower that number is, the less work your body has to do. Next is sugar, but don't just look for the word sugar. Sugar hides behind friendly names like maltose, dextrose, fructose, cane syrup, corn syrup, sucrose. If you see any of those, don't assume it's harmless. Then look at protein and fat. A milk with 1 gram of protein and 10 grams of carbs will spike your blood sugar much faster than a milk and with 7 grams of protein and 6 grams of carbs. Protein acts like a gentle brake that slows down sugar absorption. And saturated fat, especially in whole milk, doesn't just affect weight, it strains your blood vessels over time. And here's one big misconception. The phrase "no sugar added" does not mean no sugar exists. It only means the manufacturer didn't dump spoonfuls of sugar into it, but lactose processing sugars like maltose or syrups can still be in there. It's like someone saying, "I didn't buy dessert," but then eating a honey loaf and feeling safe. I often teach my patients a quick check method, not to memorize rules, but to avoid stepping into traps. If a serving has more than 2 grams of sugar, it can affect your blood sugar. If total carbs are over 8 grams, put it back. If protein is under 6 grams and you plan to drink it as a snack, your body will react like you just drank a glass of sugar water. I also count lines on the ingredient list. If you see more than 6 to 7 lines full of words you can't pronounce, it probably wasn't made for your health, it was made to please your taste buds. And taste buds have never been the guardian angel of someone with diabetes. One time, a 72-year-old man asked me, "At this age, do I really need to read every tiny word?" I told him gently, "At any age, you deserve to be healthy, but only people who pay attention to the details get to keep it." You can choose the best milk among the 3 I mentioned, almond unsweetened soy or skim cow's milk. But if you choose the wrong version of the right milk, the lightly sweetened vanilla improved flavor, or senior-friendly version, then give it a few weeks and your blood sugar will tell you exactly what you misread. I don't want you to be someone who drinks milk full of hope, then checks your glucose full of disappointment. I want you to understand what you're doing and why. And sometimes it all starts with one glance at a tiny label on the back of a carton. So before we wrap up this topic, remember this. You don't need to give up milk. You just need to look a little closer and choose like someone who's truly in charge of their own health. We've walked together through this whole video, from figuring out which types of milk actually help with blood sugar control to learning how to read labels so you don't fall into the hidden sugar trap at the supermarket. And if you're still here with me right now, that tells me something important. You're not just listening for the sake of it. You genuinely want to take action for your health. I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, what would change if starting tomorrow every glass of milk I drink was chosen wisely? I've seen it happen countless times. Patients at 55, 62, even 70 years old, just by switching the type of milk they had in the morning, saw their blood sugar stabilize, needed fewer medications, had more energy, and even slept better. Small steps, when they're in the right direction, can lead to results bigger than you think. So here are the 3 things I want you to take away from today. First, don't let labels or advertising make the choice for you. Look at the numbers, not the slogans. Second, pick one of the 3 safe milk options I shared. Start with one small change. You don't need to do everything at once. Third, share this knowledge with your spouse, your kids, or a friend who's also struggling with blood sugar. Because health is not a journey meant to be walked alone. If you'd like me to make more videos about nutrition for people with diabetes or how to pair milk with breakfast, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next video. I've got a lot more to share with you. Remember, life after 50 is not about decline. It's about the results of the choices you start making today.